Hello, we're back. It's Luke K and Alex Roebuck here. We should firstly apologise for Matt Duggan's silence on that last VD. We're still getting used to some of the text. We'll get there. Anyway, we're back with the top 8. We have sniped the commentator's choice of feature match, which has also been popular among people that are watching the stream. We're going straight down to the feature match areas. 4 Colour Dragons versus Naya Midrange. Let's go. Oh yeah. Okay, it's a bit dark and mysterious. We are into turn 2. Here we go, Chris Vincent, turn to Oath of Nissa. Green Ponder. Let's talk more about the Green Ponder. It's really been a staple of this whole tournament in the coverage indeed.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Also, it's another really nice example of...
he speaks with Limvala there, that's important.
How set design actually does work across blocks. So this cycle of enchantments, but especially the green one, the way that they work, rather than being a spell, is it's a permanent, comes into play. You get a one-off effect right away, and then you get another effect that's sort of a static ability that sticks around. The whole cycle's exactly the same in that regard.
Yes.
But they're legendary. Now, for some of them, that looks kind of pointless because the static ability doesn't stack. Like the ability to cast Planeswalkers with mana of any colour and the ability to cast Planeswalkers with mana of any colour makes no difference.
Yeah.
So why does it matter that they're legendary? Well, the following block has this mechanic in it called Delirium, which counts the number of permanent types in your graveyard. The ability to cast your second Oath of Nissa, to have one of them go to the graveyard, to +1 to your Delirium count, and perhaps turn something cool on, is a really interesting example of cross-block design. So not only is it clever in that respect, it's just really powerful. It's card selection for a single point of mana, and that's something that they've actually moved away from in design in recent years because it's generally considered too powerful. If you look at cards such as Ponder and Preordain that were mainstays of the format a few years ago, they've more or less said in clear terms that effects like that are considered just a bit too strong.
So far we've had some interaction here. We had a Nissa. Looks like destroyed by an Urge-Tie, countered by an Urge-Tie's command.
That I think was an anticipate in response to the Tireless Tracker.
It was. Here we go, we fixed the lighting.
There we go.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. Here we go, 4 Colour Dragons doing its thing.
This is looking like an Urge-Tie. There we go.
Let's see if Chris's Naya Midrange deck is good at really dealing with this.
So as it happens, Matthew's drawn a nice mix of his other lands anyway, and the Haven didn't really matter too much there. The main strength of it was simply that it came in untapped. But obviously Haven in a deck like this is really powerful. It's an untapped land, adds one of any of the colours that you need it to, and in the late game when you've got a spare land that you don't need, you can sacrifice it to get one of your tracks back.
Did he just draw an Orator of Ogre-Tie? No, he didn't. Sorry, that's good.
I think he did.
He did.
Oh, is that the list?
He's up here. Oh my day, 4 Orator of... Yep, Chris requires
to read that
to
card.
read that one, and I'm not surprised, because it's not one you see every day, especially in Standard.
Well, Wall of Omens is a fantastic card.
It is.
I have said a few times I wish they'd just reprint it, and they nearly did in Dragons of Tarkir.
This is he. The Token Evolving Wilds. So this is 4 Colour Dragons. It's 4 Colour non-red dragons. We've got the deck list here. He's playing 2 Roebuck, 4 Urge-Tie, 2 Silumgar. So we've got a good mix. 8 Dogons. We've also got 3 Urge-Tie's command, the 1 Sun-Scorched region, quirky, and the 4 Orator of Urge-Tie that are obviously like... Dragon Tribal, not something you see a lot of, especially 4 Colour non-red dragons. Seems a bit of a flavour fail. Shiver Dragon is turning in his grave somewhere. But yeah, enough fire breathing here.
Which of the other Dragon Tribal themed cards are in the list? Do we have any Silumgar Scorns or anything like that?
Well, the Orator of Urge-Tie is essentially Dragon Tribal. And we got Haven and the Spirit Dragon, and 4 Silumgar Scorn.
And also 2 Sun-Scorched region in as well.
Yeah, Sun-Scorched region, yeah. So, we'll see how this goes as Chris attacks him with a big Tireless Tracker, big enough to not be blocked by the Dragon Lord. He rubs his hair. It seems that like this card might be difficult for his Radiant Flames deck to deal with.
So cards that might get that off the table. Displacement Wave.
Well, we've just drawn one, and it was it's Nahiri. When Nahiri's tapped.
There's a planar outburst, but obviously that will kill his own dragon, so we don't really want to go for that. There's 2 immolating glare in the deck.
Yeah. That's in the Dragon's deck.
Yeah.
From the Tireless Tracker.
So there's an Nahiri on Chris's side of the table now. Chris may have to be relatively careful with the way that he uses his Planeswalkers in this match because of the Silumgars. I don't know if he knows that those are in the deck.
Yes, I mean, I have no idea. I don't know what to expect from this.
Matthew's just fetched a Swamp with his Evolving Wilds, but I was about to say, up to this point, the deck looks like a Bant deck, and I don't know if Chris is fully aware of what his opponent's playing.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, as Man Race has progressed, Dragonlord Silumgar at this point, especially with the Orator, is looking more and more likely. So all the Dragonlords, I don't know. We're missing
Not Colligan or Ataka.
No Colligan. Well, Ataka's in Chris's deck, so all the Dragonlords would be on the table, but no Colligan. We'll see how that works actually, because that might be quite funny. Because out of them, I really like Dragonlord Ataka.
It's reminiscent of Boggin and Hellkite, which is a very playable card in its day.
Yeah. So Matthew getting some beats in with the Dragonlord.
One of the interesting decisions that you always face if you have a Dragonlord Ogita on the table and your opponent has a Planeswalker is, do I want to kill the Planeswalker or do I want to draw a card?
Yeah, I don't want to draw a card.
Because that ability only triggers if the combat damage has been assigned to the opponent. It won't trigger if we attack Nahiri there.
Interestingly, Nahiri has the -2 of Exile Tapped.
Yes, at the moment, Nahiri is able to take Ojitai down.
Whereas if we'd hit Nahiri,
she wouldn't be able to.
It's -2.
Yeah. I wonder if
So
Matthew
only
may
time
have
will tell.
forgotten that or not considered it, or is possibly just happy for that to happen. There's a Sunscorch region.
Which we can only Oracle text for.
Otherwise known as Chaff Rare 107.
Yes. It was a buy box promo as well, I believe.
It's a 4/3 dragon with flying for 3 and 2 white. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sunscorch region and gain 1 life.
Fascinating stuff. Good against Grape Shot.
Well, I guess it's doing something that you need to do against decks that are naturally a weakness for this kind of strategy. Matthew's deck is sort of eggs in one basket over a few baskets. He's going to play a small number of big threats. If the opponent's going wide, Matthew could very easily get overrun.
Yeah.
So the more threats Chris plays, the more creatures he puts onto the board, the bigger this Sunscorch region is going to get. Matthew gains some of the life back that he loses in combat, and then gets to deal more damage on the backswing.
Notably as well, if you cast any spell if your opponent casts any spell with this in play, they then can't languish it away. Because once they've cast the first spell, it's an X4. Then the languish.
Then the languish would make it first point of this.
Yeah.
The counter goes on before the spell resolves. So you also can't, for example, use an effect like Carbonize or Draconic Row to deal 3 damage to kill it, because it will have a 4th point of toughness before that spell ever resolves. So
Carbonize.
Chris has minus Nahiri to get rid of the Ojitai there.
Yes, which we saw. But it sells this Thunderscorch. Sells the region, Sunscorch region, not the Thun. Yeah, it's playing the. I think that's the biggest Dragon tribal card, the Thunderbait region.
Yes. Yeah, that was very.
That was the. And yeah.
So there's a stasis snare from Chris, which is going to deal with the Thunderbait region.
He does
gain 1 life out of the deal.
Ka-ching. Plus the counter on as well.
Are we potentially going to counter that after letting the trigger resolve? There's a Silumgar Scone.
Okay.
So we've got a +1/+1 counter, gain 1 life, and not lost. And there's a second stasis snare from Chris.
Sometimes you just got the both of them.
So that means Matthew gains a 2nd point of life, but now doesn't have any real board presence. I couldn't really see Matthew's hand in any detail there, but I'm still quite intrigued by the decision to allow Ojitai to get exiled, assuming that was deliberate.
Well, maybe he has Silumgar and he's waiting to kill Chris's Tireless Tracker with Chris Nahiri. And therefore, in that scenario, but in that scenario it's fine attacking the Nahiri, because the Nahiri ends up on 1 loyalty counter, which is immediately ticked up to 3.
So it's like, as we said,
interesting
if the Ojitai had hit Nahiri would have gone down to 1 loyalty. Matthew wouldn't have got the Ojitai trigger, but Nahiri wouldn't have had sufficient loyalty to take Ojitai off the table, which in the long run could have been much more beneficial.
Having Ojitai on the table seems more important.
Potentially,
Going
again,
back.
it depends what's in Chris's hand, which I can't really see at the moment.
And in Matthew's hand.
There's a replacement Ojitai.
So
There we go.
this
So
helps.
if that was already in his hand, then that explains things quite nicely.
Sometimes just have a backup Dragon Lord. Now let's see what Chris has got.
I was just thinking to myself, is there a Dragon Tutor in the format? And I remembered, yes, there is, but it's red, which is the one colour we're not playing. It's Sarkhan's Triumph. Yeah.
Which would be sweet if only we played red. Someone needs to have a conversation with Matthew Wilson and get him to include some sweet red cards in his 5-colour Dragons deck.
I think the mana for this deck is probably stretched enough as it is, but
Again, we need more tribal sorcery. Oh, my Spirit. Sorry, what's it called? Haven of the Spirit Dragon. See, why can't my Haven of the Spirit Dragon tap to cast Sarkhan's Triumph? That's the real question. It seems sweet.
yeah, if it was a
Fail.
tribal instant dragon, it would be able to. I think they've more or less confirmed that we won't be seeing that written on anything again.
That's a shame.
Not enough cards require it, and some people find it confusing.
Yeah, I see where they're coming from. I like it on Big Splashing Mythics. It was cool and all this dust.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, as far as the argument for it being confusing is concerned, I think for them to be extremely rare, relatively amongst the card pool of Magic, makes them even more confusing than if they're a common feature.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from. So yeah.
So that's a second Tireless Tracker.
We
so
are getting
these
clued
clues are going to rack up very quickly, and it's easy to forget those are there because they don't do anything until you activate them. But Chris has got this nice ability to reload his hand quite extensively if you should need to do so.
I've got to tell you, Tyler Stracker's really impressed me out of Chris's deck. The 2 games we saw when he was going Tracker Wilds seemed really powerful.
Following it up with specifically Evolving Wilds in particular is very impressive. I'm really glad that the card is seeing play, because when it was first spoiled and I read it and I looked at the text, I thought that's a really cool Magic card. But I looked at 3 mana and only 2 toughness. I thought, compared to the way that the stats on creatures are typically going at the moment, that's probably not good enough. And it turns out that the abilities are so strong that they do make up for what looks like a kind of weak starting body.
Yeah. As you say, it's good to see it seeing play. Matthew Wilson, his deck appears to be base blue-white. We're seeing lots of...
Well, yeah, I mean, the early plays are the Wall of Omens that's called something else, and Silumgar.
Orator of Ojutai, Silumgar Storm. We also got Immolating Glare, Hallowed Moonlight, and Clash of Wills Anticipate. Yeah, you're right. In fact, the vast majority of the deck is a blue-white control deck,
We're basically just splashing for 2 of the other
Dramoka and Silumgar.
So I guess one of the comparisons we could draw is between this and the blue-white control deck we saw in the previous round.
A little bit. It's a little bit all in on the combo of Ojutai plus...
So there's this nice core in the middle of blue-white control effects. There's some wrath and some counter spells and some card draw, and 4 copies of Ojutai. So here's a Displacement Wave, which is an interesting card because all of Matthew's threats are quite expensive in terms of mana. So rather than using an unconditional wrath, such as Planar Outburst, taking Displacement Wave means we can affect the board in a very asymmetrical manner. And here we've returned Chris's entire board position to his hand,
including the Stasis
Snare, which returns the Sunscorched Region to play, and then we get an attack in with Ojutai. And I really don't know how Chris is going to recover in
That's pretty rough. He hasn't got a lot of lands in play.
No. It even removes the clues.
Oh, it even gets the clues. I'm assuming it's non-token permanent.
It's non-land permanent with convert mana cost X or less. So it even gets rid of the tokens because they are CMC 0. So in the last round we watched a blue-white control deck that's centered around Ojutai, and in some respects this is the same kind of idea. We're going to use control effects and Ojutai doing a lot of the legwork, but we've bolstered it by leaning on 2 other colours for extra dragons.
It is because it's essentially Esper Dragons without black removal spells and Splashing Green. But
one of the weaknesses
is it Esper Dragons anymore? So
one of the weaknesses we saw with the Ojutai deck from the previous round is what happens if you don't have Ojutai. Well, this deck obviously does have a couple of other tricks up its sleeve.
Yeah. in the form of apparently still Scotch
I
region.
really like that we're seeing a rater of Ojtai Seesaw play.
Yeah, I like that as well. Excuse me. You know, Wall of Omens was a constructed all-star, and still is. It's still seeing play. The amount of times I've kiki-jikied my own Wall of Omens is obscene. But that's an exciting player.
Yes.
And this
Here he's coming back down, getting rid of a second Ojtai. But the Sunscorch region is now up to 6 power. Mind you, Chris does have Stasis Snare back in hand again. I think Chris may have made a mistake in the way he's tapped to cast Nahiri there.
Especially considering he had Oath of Nisr in play.
Well, yeah, exactly. With Oath of Nisr in play, he could have tapped any of his lands. He could have left the...
Does it say you may spend mana as though it is mana of any colour?
Yes, yeah. So we could have tapped the 4 basics and left the 3 2-colour lands up to maximise options after that resolved.
To maximise the ability to cast.
And now Chris is not going to be able to cast Stasis Snare.
I mean...
unless he's got a land in hand. I don't know if he's
no, he's played the Evolving
Wilds
Wilds for the turn, so I don't think he could have cast Stasis Snare anyway, if he wanted to also cast Nahiri.
That's true.
Which is a shame, because he's on not a lot of life, and the Scotch region is going to be big. Oh wait, he's discarding down.
He's discarding to hand size. Yep, so Chris is going to be taking... Well, Matthew may choose to just take the Planeswalker out.
Yes.
Because of course, if he attacks Chris's life total, Chris can untap and use the remaining 2 loyalty counters on Nahiri to exile another dragon.
Splat.
Which does mean that single copy of Nahiri will have taken out 3 Planeswalkers. Which is, Planeswalkers, sorry? 3 dragons. Which is not
He's
bad
going
going.
in. He's going in.
Yeah, he's gone straight for the life total, so that's putting Chris all the way down to 4.
Yeah.
And I think I'm right in saying Chris's deck doesn't have any ways of gaining life back. Once Chris loses life, it's gone.
Just Linvala, but that's pretty difficult.
Is that the side border? Is it the main?
It's in the main.
No, there is a Linvala in the main. Okay, so Chris can draw into his Angel, which also does a nice job of fighting dragons.
It does.
In the air.
Rawr.
No Baneslayer, but there we go. There's another dragon this time.
Well, I mean, it seems really difficult when Chris is on 4 life. To power 3 this, it's possible we're just Linvala or bust at this point, actually. Well, we've got
Chris has gone and found
Stasis
red.
Snare.
Stasis Snare can take out Dragon Lord Ojtai once it's been declared an attacker. Nahiri can deal with the Sunscorch region as soon as Chris enters his main phase. So Matthew might actually struggle to deal these last 4 points at this point.
So how many?
Stage of the game.
We do have Haven of the Spirit Dragon in play, so we can activate that to. No, that's Ugin.
Currently, all of the dragons are in exile,
Yes.
not in the graveyard.
And
so
indeed, with Stasis
Haven
Snare,
is not
yeah.
going to help in any way with that.
Yeah, it needs some pull from Ascension. It's not gonna. We're not gonna get there.
Oh, I miss casting that on people's Gargadons.
From people's ancestral visions. Yeah. We're being told that Cokes from the Blind Eternities could get there. And, well,
I was talking to a couple of people who have played the Blue Lamog deck about that card and whether or not they think it's going to improve the deck in any way. And most people's opinions that I've spoken to so far seems to essentially be that no, it's not, because you're unlikely to cast Cokes and the Eldrazi in the same turn because that's too much mana. So at that point, you may as well just leave the Eldrazi in the deck, draw it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, I know that if you get your Eldrazi infinitely obliterated,
it's a way of getting them back.
it's a way of coaxing them back.
I could certainly imagine.
Here we go. So he's
There we go. So as we
it's our dragon
anticipated,
number 4.
that's another dragon. So Nahiri's done an
number 3.
awful lot of work there. She's exiled
Good job, love.
15 mana's worth of permanents. What?
That isn't going to work. Whoops. Oh no, head in hands. I think he knew what he wanted to do, but didn't do that.
I think. Yeah, Chris is clearly planned ahead.
Ah, okay. Do you plan too far ahead? Oh,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
good.
Oh, Kimomo. We need Travis. Where's Travis and his pad? Sending notes to the team and to the viewers at home. Yeah, so Chris Vincent making an uncharacteristic mistake there in the top 8. Losing game 1 to Matthew Wilson. Now, he has got a dragon. Has he got a dragon loyalty? No, thankfully we have these the wrong way around. We have the sideboards the wrong way around, thankfully. Because Matthew Wilson having a Dragon Lord attacker and a Chandra in his sideboard would be really impressive. No, it looks to me like Chris is actually favoured in this matchup. I think it was just a bit unfortunate. He has answers to Ojitai, which a lot of decks don't.
He appeared to be a long way behind there, but actually I think he was sort of stabilising. That looked like a position that he could easily win from.
Yeah.
If he'd waited until Ojitai was declared as an attacker to cast the Stasis Snare, that would have dealt with it quite nicely.
It really would.
Obviously there was a counter spell for his Avacyn, but he's still got 2 Tireless Trackers in hand. At that point Matthew no longer has a threat. 4 of his dragons are in exile. It did look like there was a Silumgar in his hand though, which is something else that Chris would have to deal with.
Yeah.
There we go.
Here we go. Dragon Lord's prerogative, more tribal dragons. It's just, what's the 4 mana draw? The 6
It's draw 4 cards, but it's uncounterable if you've got a dragon. It's very good in control matches or any games. It's like a 6 mana draw 4. Engulf the Shore, that's going to get Chris's
Tireless Trackers back to hand.
Unless they get too big.
Yeah, true. True.
There's Exert Influence, but again, some of Chris's creatures are capable of getting out of reach of that fairly quickly. There's Gideon, which can just spam some extra blockers. I think the Quarantine Field is an interesting touch, but it is perhaps a little bit of a non-varied displacement wave.
Yes. Which you definitely want in the Stasis Snare mirror. You want to be displacement waving, not quarantine fielding.
Yeah. On Chris's side, we've got Clip Wings, which is absolutely definitely coming in.
Yes.
Dragon Lord Attacker as well, I think, has to come in. Possibly
just a
Rending,
block.
possibly Rending Volley because it deals with Ojitai. It also gets Orator of Ojitai out of the way.
It does. It's nice if we need to.
But
I think it's primarily in there for the blue-white humans matchup. But it could be interesting. I agree. Naturalize, not necessarily. Another Chandra might be nice.
potentially, but in Chris's shoes, I'd be extremely careful of what I'm doing with my Planeswalkers because there's Silumgar in the opposing deck.
You're right.
And also the -X is not really doing what you want it to in this match because those creatures they're all high toughness, relatively speaking, and there's not many of them. The Dragon's deck does have counter magic in, so spending an entire turn on casting one single permanent is an easy way to get blown out.
Yeah.
In Chris's shoes, generally speaking, if I've got 6 mana, I don't want to cast one card, I want to cast 2.
Yes. Especially with the clue value engine that we've
or at the very least,
so
cast one card and crack a clue.
Yeah. This isn't Chris's sideboard. That wasn't Chris's sideboard. That was someone else's sideboard.
Sideboard up there.
I think we did.
Well,
that's all right.
It's quite likely that he won't be sideboarding any of those cards in.
It is, yeah. That discussion was moot. I do apologise. No clip wings for us.
I think that may have been the Focal Rights sideboard from the previous round.
On the plus side, we can talk through what Chris has got in his sideboard. 2-strike Concaller, which is what got me thinking, because we saw that in the last game. And perhaps the Season's Pass, which is quite spicy, if we're going long. If we're going shorter, Declaration Stone is a good 2-mana removal spell. Probably for tokens more than the other ones. And I've seen Chris use Malevolent Whispers hilariously. It's Threaten. It's a Threaten variant with Madness, so that's quite interesting as well. We'll see how players go as they shuffle up and look at their hands for game 2. This is with Chris Vincent on the play again, as he was top seed, or higher seeded. And we've got Tapland Go. Matched by Tapland Go, but slightly nicer Tapland Go. I believe that to be Sunken Hollow. And turn 2 Silver Advocate from Chris. That's an attacking force on the ground that does get blocked by Dragon Lord. Sorry, Orator of Ojitai, but is a threat in the short term and gets the beats on. Yeah,
absolutely. And once Chris hits his 6th land, it does get out of reach for Orator of Ojitai. Also, you wouldn't want to block it with Dragon Lord Ojitai either. The vigilance aspect of the card is a bit redundant in this match because it's not going to be blocking because it doesn't have flying or reach.
True.
Going for some early damage.
True.
That's an expedition on the table there. I think
it's Sunken Hollow.
Must admit, I'm not a fan of the fact that the the colours don't show through well.
Yes, it's a little bit troubling, actually.
You know, for instance, the lands on Chris's side of the table, it's very clear that one of them's red-green, one of them's red-white, one of them's green-white. I don't know that the expeditions were very popular and pushed sales of that quite dramatically.
Yeah, they did. It's true. So we see Matthew with the core.
So
Island
he's
and
into
plains.
We've got 2 basics, which means that the other dual lands should be coming down on tap now. We're already fixed into 3 of the 4 colours, so we're off to a good start in that.
And I appreciate that he's gone for a slightly nicer Art Evolving Wilds as well.
Do you like that one?
Yeah, a little bit more. I'm not a big fan of the new one. I think the original Innistrad ones are really nice. Well, that might be Terramorphic Expanse.
No, Time Spiral was Terramorphic.
Okay. There's been a few printings, I believe. Okay.
They were briefly both in standard together, which is quite funny.
Sweet.
I don't know if anybody actually did
command.
play
We
it.
haven't talked about. We talked about a lot about other commands, a lot about Drogo's command, and quite a bit about Atarka's command.
Yeah, I mean, at 2 mana, they're a lot more aggressively costed.
Yeah.
Again, coming back to this idea of trying to do more than one thing in a turn, the green, white, and green, red commands do let you put more pressure on, do more things. But Ojutai's command is a really strong answer to a lot of problems. Stop things resolving before they're an issue. Recur one of your more important pieces. There was a period where a lot of people were returning Jace to play with it. Which is,
silly good.
Yeah.
And we can return a Rage of Ojutai in this.
So that's a Silumgar's Scorn for the Tireless Tracker. So we're off to a really good start there.
We are. And we revealed the Dragon Lord Dromoka, which is the first time Chris has seen Dragon Lord Dromoka out of Matthew Wilson's deck. I mean, we saw the green splash, but we couldn't have promised.
And there's the forest, so we're now in
We
all 4
are.
colours. So we're
We have Roebuck. Roebuck. I'm not going to go there.
with an extra 2 cards for Matthew off the orator and the command.
Yeah.
We've countered 2 of Chris's threats, and at the moment at least there's a blocker in the way.
The third one
of
is
the-
muted.
There's a blocker in the way of the
It
advocate.
does seem
So
that Chris has missed a land drop as well. 2 land drops.
just isn't getting through at the moment.
Not right now, although he has drawn Radiant Flames, which doesn't do a lot actually at all. So just draw go from Chris. It's not looking good for our fair hero. Although saying that, I am looking forward to seeing this if this 4-colour Dragon's deck proceeds through the semis. I'm quite excited. She's through to the semis. I'm quite excited to see it again.
Certainly a very interesting list.
If anyone on the Twitch chat, I know Stuart's around. If anyone on the Twitch chat wants to fill us in, please do. We've got the ever competent Sam Ridley who's just glaring at me from across the room. Meanwhile, Dragon Lord Dromoka down for Matthew Wilson. This is a real haymaker. And with Chris seeing just 3 lands, it seems quite rough. Well, we have a 4th. And Stasis Snare, which is quite nice. Deals with that pretty efficiently.
Yeah.
But still clogged up the ground. The ground is still clogged up by this Rage of Ojutai.
And that stops being a problem if Chris finds his 6th land, but the very problem Chris is having is...
The 5th one's still pretty elusive, so...
not drawing enough lands. So I guess the problem Matthew potentially faces is that although he's got a lot of strong control tools, he doesn't have an awful lot of threats. And Chris does have a reasonable number of answers that are capable of taking those threats down. Stasis Snares and Nahiris.
Well, we just drawn another Rage of Ojutai. We have Dragon Lord Silumgar in hand. So Nahiri's looking less powerful now. Especially since he can steal his opponent's Nahiri and then kill his opponent's Stasis Snare.
Yeah.
Which is I just no. At that point, that's a scoop. So Nahiri not really the card you want to draw right now, unfortunately. Yeah, just drawing go from Chris. It is a real shame. This 4-colour Dragons deck seems to have really pulled together a quantity lead. It does suck that only one player has drawn more than 4 lands.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of who wins, you want to see people play an interesting game of Magic, and unfortunately Chris doesn't seem to be.
And with Silumgar Storm in hand, I'm anticipating. And is that...
It looked like a multicolour card that Chris just drew, but I didn't quite see what it was.
I'm not sure on the way forward of this one. The positive is that Matthew Wilson hasn't found a way to kill Chris quite yet.
No, but
But it won't be long before Dragonlord's Roebuck comes down.
With 3 0-4s in there, Chris has got a real job on his hands to get through.
Yeah,
Chris is now discarding to maximum hand size, which is really not where you want to be.
Was that that was the threaten?
Yeah.
So, I have seen Chris do some pretty awesome things with the threaten. And it is a shame that we haven't seen a lot of it. Oh, hey! That does not come in untapped, unfortunately. We need to pass that information down to our colleagues. As Chris doesn't have 2 basics in play, even though his opponent has several.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those things, the way that card works.
You're so used to it.
You're expecting that if we're in the early turns it comes down tapped, and if we're not in the early turns it comes down untapped. So if you draw one in a mid to late game, in a situation where actually it is still going to come down tapped, you don't necessarily think to double check, you just assume.
So interestingly, we have boarded in the quarantine fields, which means I assume we haven't boarded in, or we've boarded out. The displacement waves. It's interesting because now Chris has tapped out for this Avacyn, which he shouldn't be able to cast. Yeah, Judge. Okimomo. This is really uncharacteristic of Mr. Vincent, by the way.
I wouldn't be terribly surprised if that mistake from the previous
has just tilted him.
Yeah.
We have joked about Chris rarely winning on camera. His win rate is much higher off camera than it is on camera, like significantly higher, which is a bit of a shame. And unfortunately, Dragonlord Avacyn. Unfortunately, this Archangel Avacyn coming down a turn late, later than Chris wanted it to.
So the head judge is at the table now, just talking to the players about what happened. May or may not see a backup at this point as a result of that mistake.
Yeah. But anyway, I think we've showcased nicely the power of this, the 4-colour Dragons deck. It's really got firm control of the deck, and I know Chris himself played a lot of Wall of Omens, so it's been pretty sad facing down these not 4-drawer cards.
I think one of the big questions hanging over the Dragons style strategies, even when Esper Dragons was a popular deck, was how do you make sure that you live long enough to put these things onto the table and allow yourself the time that you need to win with them. And somebody making Orator of Ojutai work in this way is quite impressive. I'm not. What was the total count of dragons? Did we think it was about 10?
9.
Only 9.
Only 9. 2
Dromoka, 4 Ojutai, 2 Silumgar, and 1 Sunscorch.
Yeah.
That's very low. I'm not 100% certain, but I think Carson recommended about 12 to make these sorts of things work.
It does have quite a bit more card selection than the average Dragons list that I would understand.
So it's perhaps slightly less important for Silumgar Scorn because you can allow that to be a late card game. And it's totally fine to try and get someone with that even if you don't have the Dragon. But when you're playing Orator of Ojutai, you really want to draw the card. If I play that note for and don't draw a card, I'm going to be very disappointed.
It's pretty rare. It's like outside of limited, it's just you don't do it.
So we did see a backup in order to fix the mistake with the land that should have been tapped. That's allowed Matthew to continue with his plan to quarantine field.
And unfortunately now Matthew knows the Elspeth. Yeah, sorry.
We weren't quite sure if he was going to bring that card in or not because of the interaction with displacement wave. But I mean, if it's in the sideboard at all, that must be something he's considered. And it might even be part of the plan that there's a direct swap going on there. It's displacement wave that comes out to make room for the.
I can see that. And displacement wave much better against the token strategies.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, that's not a play I would have made.
What would you like to do?
I would have stasis snared the other. Oh, it's creature, never mind. It's not Oblivion Ring.
No.
I've just not played.
There is one that will take the quarantine field.
Yes,
but it's the 4-mana one and it doesn't have flash.
Yeah.
It's not really playable.
It's not
so there's the 4th Orator.
So just 16 toughness on the board.
Yeah.
Across 4 bodies.
But again, Matthew's still stuck there with no real way of actually dealing any damage or closing this game out.
Yeah, Chris has been able to redevelop his board and while...
And we're not far away from that 6-point mana. We know that Chris has got an angel in hand. There's the 6th land.
Nearly. It's like,
well, I mean...
Yeah.
obviously you do have that.
Drawback.
Yeah, the mana that it fetches will have to come into play tapped, but on the other hand, it will enable runners for you to dual lands, and in particular, it's the sixth count for Sylvan Advocate, regardless of any attachment.
Although,
so there's Ojutai's Command, countering the Angel, drawing another card from Matthew Wilson. So I think that's...
This is just Cryptic Command.
Yeah, exactly. But at this point, between the extra cards from Commands and Orators, Matthew's up 6 cards.
Yeah, like so many, more in value almost. And while he's played on the middle,
and one of these count spells is countered to Tireless Tracker as well, which would have helped Chris escape from some of his card disadvantage.
I do apologise.
Chris has drawn a Nahiri.
Right. He still knows about the Dragon Lord Summon, but he can exile. Yeah, I just don't think he can cast it, just because the Dragon Lord Summon.
So, if he casts it, the best play is probably to exile the Quarantine Field, which gets him back a creature and allows him to remove one of the opponent's creatures because Stasis Snare comes back. The problem is there's not really anything good to point the Stasis Snare at that point.
Not really.
And also...
he's back to back Avacins, so this could be good.
Drawn another Avacyn, so that's an Avacyn in the end step. Also, if the opponent then drops Silumgar, steals Nahiri, and exiles Chris's Stasis Snare, that puts a Dramoka back into play under Matthew's control. So really I don't think Chris has any choice but to hang on to Nahiri for a while until he can engineer a more opportunistic moment to use it.
I think now that Chris is aware of more of the interactions that this deck's that the 4-colour Dragons deck's offering, he can play right. Like playing around Dragon Lord Sungar is really important, and to some extent that's a massive drawback to Array of Ojutai.
So the slight upside on Orator of Ojutai compared to Wall of Omens is as well as drawing you a card, albeit only conditionally, it has flying.
Yes.
And Matthew's just absorbed 4 damage from the Avacyn attack. If anything, the graveyard is the best place for that card to be right now because it gives him slightly more freedom to use his commands effectively.
Ojutai's Command. Ojutai's Command, draw 2 cards. Seems really good. So here, is Matthew just showboating? Look at all these lands I have. No, is the answer. This is a Quarantine Field.
It's another Quarantine Field, yep. So what are we going to take out with this one? I assume, again, Stasis Snare and the Angel.
Chris has got to have a think now. It's getting to the stage where he has to use the Nahiri just to survive.
I think even if that looks like not the best play, he's sort of being bullied into using it that way regardless. If Matthew attacks with Ojutai here, Chris will be able to get the Ojutai off the table with the Stasis Snare that comes back.
Yes. But
and also,
he's then stuck behind the massive 2 Dragon Lords. The other 2 they'll be left over.
The Silumgar in Matthew's hand is causing a real problem for Chris. There's not really anything that he can do about that.
Yeah. It's a shame.
There's no transgress or counter magic or anything to stop playing. Chris's only options are to deal with things after they've resolved, and given that Silumgar is based on an instant battlefield trigger, that means that Matthew's virtually guaranteed to get some value out of it.
Yeah.
If Chris gets to 7 mana and has a Stasis Snare, as well as Nahiri, it's possible that he can Stasis Snare Silumgar in response to the trigger, in which case Nahiri will never change control. But I think that's about the only way you can get around it.
Yes. God, having Stasis Snares spare in this matchup seems like, difficult. Difficult to say the least. Alright. It would appear that Chris has drawn some lands. That's awesome. We're back in the game and probably a bit too late. Facing down double Dragon Lord. But this is one of the strengths of the 4-colour Dragons deck, right? Be able to go double Dragon Lord. Like these 2 play really nicely together. Not be able to cast spells on my turn means that as soon as I attack with the Dragon Lord Ojutai, it's going to connect.
Yes.
Which is really nice.
And Dromoka also does a good job of...
Oh, with Declaration of Stone.
That's Declaration of Stone on Dromoka. Roebuck also does a good job of making sure that Silumgar gets to do its thing, because you can't counter it, you also can't kill it in response to the trigger.
Yeah. Which is possibly why Chris has chosen to deal with the threats in that order. We Oath of Viscering. I think that's the only one dropping Chris.
Could be Oath of Nissa into Nahiri. That would allow him to Stasis Snare the Ojutai, put the Angel back into play. And buy himself some time, I suppose.
Yeah. Moss, no, it's just...
There's a counter.
It's pretty back-breaking as well. Seems really difficult.
The issue that Chris has is that Matthew's just been drawing so many cards.
Oh, wow.
There's another Stasis Snare.
Infinite snares. We met by we're going to pop a clue.
Crack a clue. See what the top card is.
Okay.
So Ojutai's under the Stasis Snare. So once again, we're back at this sort of stalemate position.
Except
Matthew might have a lot more resources, but what he doesn't have is an engine to win the game with at the moment. And then Chris is still stuck in this really odd position where he's
never mind.
Withdrawn another.
Well, actually, now he has the
So we're still stuck with Nahiri in hand. We want to get that -2 effect somehow, but we don't want to do it in a way that allows Matthew to untap Silumgar and steal it from us. I mean, is there any way that Chris can potentially damage it himself? He doesn't have any burn effects, does he?
Just the Chandra, which might have come out. Oh, he's played Chandra.
That's a Chandra,
and it's been negated.
It's been met with negate.
Okay. Well, he maybe wanted the last second one in. Who knows? I know.
The -4 would have been quite powerful there.
Yes, quite. Maybe we're on the play enough Stasis Snares to deck out your Folklore Dragons opponent. Maybe that's the plan now. I mean, Declaration Stone is going to get there, hit your 3 Heritage and try and...
So we're back over to Chris's turn.
It's a difficult one.
I didn't see what he drew there, but we know he's still got this Nahiri.
Okay.
So the 7. Is this going to be... this is a Tarka.
Boom.
And there's another counter.
Jeez, yeah.
There we go.
He's done. Chris is done. Yeah, he can't jam into the Dragon Lord Silumgar. Well, slightly anticlimactic, but a lot of fun, I must say.
Yeah.
This Folklore Dragon deck generating that much card advantage and really taking over the game and having a heavy control influence on the vast majority of the plays there. Like, other than the turn 2 Sylvan Advocate, which was answered eventually, Chris really rarely resolved the spell. And the spells he did resolve were just met with either backups of the spells he was removing or other removal spells. It seemed like this Folklore Dragon deck just developed a bit of momentum early and then really just powered ahead.
Generating a nice amount of card advantage as well. The Ojutai's command, especially if you're reanimating an Orator of Ojutai when you cast it. So I'll counter your creature, I'll get back another creature of my own. That creature draws me a card. That card helps me deal with another one of your creatures. And I'm just developing my board while I'm stopping you doing anything.
Yeah. So we're coming back to the booth here. Hello.
So that's 4 Colour Dragons, which did quite well in the Swiss.
Sweet, wasn't it? It was sweet.
I quite enjoyed watching that.
It was just so heavily controlled by the Folklore Dragons deck.
It is quite funny to see red being the colour that's absent, because that's normally the one that you think
Shiver
of when you say dragons.
Shiver Dragon in tears.
Ojutai, absolutely fantastic magic card, some excellent tools to back it up with. It's really nice to see the Orator being played.
Yes,
because a lot of us are fans of Wall of Omens and those kind of effects, and it's rare that cards with Defender make the grade in Standard, because you just want to attack most of the time. And unlike the blue-white control deck that we saw in the previous rounds, it's got a threat density that allows it to remain aggressive if the opponent does have an answer to the first one.
It should be pointed out that 2 infinite obliterations is still pretty good against the 4 Colour Dragons deck.
Absolutely. I mean, I mean, even just the first one, again, you know, you take away the 4 Ojutais, immediately the job gets an awful lot harder.
Yeah.
Even down to the sort of less obvious aspects of it, like the fact that the Erasure of Ojutai is much less likely to draw you a card when you cast it, and Silumgar Scorn is much less likely to function as a counter.
It's really difficult to Silumgar Scorn your opponent's second infinite obliteration after they've resolved the first one.
Yeah, definitely. But I really like these extra 2 touches of the Dromoka stopping them casting spells in your turn. So, like as you said, it means that Ojutai gets through. It allows Silumgar to do his job better as well. Silumgar allows you to mess with your opponent's plan. Borrowing Planeswalkers, even just for 1 turn, is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Especially if your opponent's on a creature-based strategy that also plays Chandra. Against the Silumgar deck, I'm seriously considering removing Chandra altogether, because my opponent can borrow it, wipe my board, not theirs, and I've just lost the game at that point.
So we're going back to the top 8 bracket now. We've got most of the results here. In fact, we've got all the results here, and we can see that.
So our semi-final is Daniel Cocking on Blue-Red Illinois against Rob Catton on Black-White Control.
He's coming for him. He was coming all day long. Daniel Cocking, while he's on coverage, has been like, Catton, I'm coming for you.
We've spoken to both of them throughout the day. Rob Catton did a deck check with us earlier and mentioned that he thinks that this is his worst matchup, and he was hoping to avoid it in the pairing. So we'll have to see how he manages.
Also there, David Ellaby, who's been on the stream before. Green White Tokens. That was the Green White Tokens mirror. I know Mike Smith, local Liverpool player. Good to see him in the top 8. Good to see the showing there. That's really, really awesome. But then of course we also had
Dragons.
He was playing the mirror, and he's playing Four Dragons, which of course is Matthew Wilson. So feel free to get involved in the Twitch chat. Tell us who you're rooting for. Yeah, we're looking forward to playing through the semi-final. I'm sure we'll have that for you shortly. We're just going to go to a short break while we decide which feature match we're going to have on. But we're looking forward to seeing you shortly. Please don't go away. You know, you've lasted the whole day, so just the semi-final and the final have to go. We're really looking forward to having you back and having us back for the semi-final. So see you shortly.